Let's play! Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Analogue, A Hate Story. We're now on the article titled Muteness, or rather diary entry, from the Pale Bride, Hyun-ae. Dear Diary, I've been thinking a lot about how close my death must be now. Lately, I've been getting prone to fainting spells. Probably goes right along with my diminishing appetite. If the doctor from the past was right, I've still got over a year left to live, maybe more. He said it wasn't very likely to get bad enough to kill me until I was at least 18. Although maybe all those years in stasis might have changed that, I don't know. But if he was right, and if I have lost track of time, I'm 16 and a half right now, so there's still a while. I've been trying to hide the signs of sickness. Even if I could explain, I know full well that nobody would believe me. So far, hiding it has been mostly working. Although I did have one of my fainting spells while my husband was on top of me. He wasn't very angry at me though. I don't think he cared. I know all I write about these days is sex with my husband and conversations with his wife. The Kim family would be proud, I guess. But those two things are all that's really worthwhile in my life. I have other responsibilities, of course. They're just not that interesting. And that's about it. Anyway, the Queen has continued to be nice to me. She finally figured it out. We were having tea together one afternoon. She was talking about nothing in particular. She asked me a question that I just shrugged to. I hope you do not take this the wrong way, she then said, but there's something I would like to ask you. I nodded. I don't think I've ever heard your voice before. I nodded again. Why don't you speak to me? Are you just saving that for the Emperor? I didn't know how to respond. She was so close to getting it, to bringing up the subject I wasn't able to, yet that wasn't the right question. So I shook my head and hoped that her next question would be. It was. Then, Hyun-ae, she said uncertainly, are you mute? I felt like screaming yes at the top of my lungs. I was so happy that she'd finally figured it out. I smiled and was about to nod enthusiastically, but suddenly I stopped. What if she thought less of me if I said yes? If she knew that the reason I was so quiet and demure wasn't because of any sort of discipline? Those were the things people liked about me. Would she stop liking me if she knew? What if she told my husband? I was so terrified I couldn't think of a correct answer. If I said no, I'm sure she would ask to hear my voice, what my voice sounded like, and I'd be forced to disobey. And if I nodded, then she'd know I wasn't really trying hard to be a good wife. And I'm sure she would talk to my husband about it, so he'd know too. But when I stared at her in terror, thinking of how to respond, she sighed and sipped her tea. Don't worry about it, she said. You do not have to answer. Please, do forget that I even asked. You know, nobody ever noticed that until her. Nobody cared. Nobody ever thought of nobody ever thought any of it, or cared enough about me to find out. But she did care. She actually paid attention. She was great. Oh, that's kind of sad. Next up, Arguing the Emperor by Ryu Jae-ha. I can't read these names sometimes. Ryu Jae-ha. My concern over the Pale Bride's condition has grown. Lately, she seemed to grow even quieter, if there is such a thing possible for a mute girl. Well, perhaps saying she is mute is an assumption too far on my part. I tried asking her directly, but she seemed too scared to answer. That simply makes me more suspicious, and I should like to know why. I addressed my husband on the matter, telling him that I wished to speak to the woman of the Kim family house, to see if I could find out what is wrong. He shrugged me off, saying, don't. They're valuable subjects. The son is someone I have an eye for in particular. The politics of the situation are far too delicate for you to be meddling with. I cleared my throat. He might be both my husband and emperor, but I will not let that stop me from being bold. My dear husband, I don't care, I said flatly. I am worried about the girl, and believe that talking to her mother might shed some light on the matter. The son is of no concern to me. I don't see why it matters. She's the perfect woman. Why? Are you jealous? He said, rolling his eyes at me, a gesture that he's only been able to use on me and his servants. A gesture that he's only been able to use on me and his servants ever since becoming emperor. Nobody has had the patience for it when he was a child, and I don't have it now, either. I know, dearest. do you believe that the well-being of your wife is a political matter? Or even an external matter? I asked. He didn't. So would you agree it's a domestic matter? I asked. He reluctantly agreed. Then, as a domestic matter, it is the responsibility of the woman of the house, is it not? Please, tell me. You are obviously more well-read in the classics than I said, both of us knowing he wasn't. Fine, he said, but just because it is your responsibility does not mean I can't overrule you. He left a silent follow-up. I don't have to take this from you. You do know that my concerns are valid, though, I replied. If you value my opinion, you will let me speak to the Kim mother. There was a pause, then he raised his hand in annoyance. Very well, do it. It's women's business. I don't want a part in it regardless. Then he just shook his head. Why must all our conversations be arguments? I smiled to him and left. He already knows the answer. I never knew about that when we were alive. Like most things, I only found out after I took over the ship's computer. It just amazes me even more. Look at her. She's a woman who actually stood up to a man and won. She wasn't clumsy like I was. She knew how to work it from her position. Isn't that so amazing? Here we have Why Did She Have to Die? By the Pale Breath. Well, that's kind of... we know what's gonna happen in this one. The titles of the movie always spoil. Dear Diary, you always forget how terrible it is to cry yourself to sleep until it happens. It's just that ultimate feeling of helplessness. What's new there, right? I just miss her. You know, she scared me. I miss her so damn much. Jaewa was the only person who was sympathetic to me. Why did she have to die? Is that my fate? Anything that makes whatever short life I have left bearable must go? Fate just hates me, I've decided. I don't know what killed her. I overheard one of the servants saying the doctor claimed it was too much worry, causing an excess of wood in the spleen, which he claimed to be common in oversensitive women. I was baffled by the absurdity of this. I still am now. My only friend is dead, and her diagnosis is absolutely insane. What do you even say to something like that? Well, I guess it's not like I need to worry about knowing what to say. But in light of that, it doesn't surprise me that nobody believed I was sick. With medicine that stupid, why would they? All it does is reinforce how hopeless everything is. I just constantly wonder, why did my father, or my own doctor, think that the people would be smarter in the future, that medicine would be better? My servant had been helping me through all the funeral stuff. Well, I mean, she's guiding me through the rites. Practically doing them for me, really. I'm so weak, and I'm so stunned. I don't even know how I've been getting out of bed. I couldn't describe any of the ceremony, it's all a blur. There was a lot of black dress, I suppose, that's my only impression. And crying. Lots of crying. From me. Look, please, do you trust me? Of course I do. Please understand my position at this time. My world was so small, and I just lost my only friend. And then I'll give you my last 2 diary entries. They have the whole story. Just please don't judge me while you read them, please. Well, I'm a person who believes that, you know, if a person does something wrong, then forgiveness is in order. Here we have Back to Hell. Oh boy, here we go. This is where things start going crazy. Dear Diary, this sounds so pathetic to say. I've tried rewriting this a million times just to make it sound less pathetic to me, and I simply cannot. There were 2 things that made my life worthwhile, 2 things that made this last year before I died be bearable. The first was Jaewa's company, being the one person that was friendly to me. The second is sharing a bed with my husband. For the past few months, that's what I've been saving all my energy for. That brief, precious half hour every few nights where I feel fulfilled. It's, if only in the most literal sense, it's the most lovely feeling, and now I'll never feel it again. The 2 things making my last year of life worth living, gone forever. The past few nights, I've been trying to get the Emperor's affection in that way, pleading silently for his affections, with no luck. On the 4th, or was it the 5th day, finally took me aside and said, painful annoyance in his voice, "Enough. Stop that, it is completely inappropriate. You're supposed to be in mourning. Show some damn chastity, or do you have no respect for my wife and your queen at all?" he snapped. When I looked confused, he just lectured me. When I cried, he sighed, held me tightly, then left the room. I haven't spoken to him since, but later that day my servant came to my room with good news. I was to go visit my family for a couple months, while the house is in mourning for Jae-hwa. I couldn't argue, of course, even if I was able to. So just like that, I was sent back to hell. I was dressed in my usual veil, so nobody would see my face, as I was escorted back to the Kim house in the middle of the night. Mother and father were there, briefly, to greet me, and in spite of how I felt about them, I put on my bravest smile and bowed, and nodded politely to their questions about how I was doing. Then they had me go to bed, and left, leaving me alone with my sister. Young-suk was nowhere to be seen. "Hi," she said. I never thought you'd end up visiting again so soon." I shrugged. "Well, let's have some tea. It's just us still around," she said. I nodded. It seemed like a good idea. There was a pause. "Well, go make it," she snapped, removing any doubt that she might treat me with any sort of friendliness. Of course I made the tea. I don't disobey her anymore. "Thanks," she said. "So Young-suk is out, attending the official business at the moment, but you should avoid him. He's still angry at you because father-in-law finds you more important to the family than his own son. Can you blame him?" I had no idea what she was talking about, and she just continued. So you really shouldn't talk to him. Oh, and I guess you really can't do that, can you?" "Well, you know what I mean." "Yes, I know exactly what she meant." "I'm surprised you're back so soon, though, especially now that you don't have to share your husband. Does that mean you're the primary wife now?" "I don't know." Does that make you a queen? Does that make you queen? Oh, what good fortune you have. Father-in-law must be so proud of you." I stared at her, wishing nothing more than to be able to kill her through sheer force of rage. How could she possibly say something so awful? My only friend was dead, and here she was, taunting me? What an awful thing to do. But I couldn't hate her to death, no matter how much I tried, so instead, I tried holding back angry tears to hide my weakness. I couldn't do that either. Just please keep reading. Well, we'll do that. Finally, last one is, I'll kill them all. This is where things go bad. Dear Diary, I was far too feverish to do any real cooking, so my servant was doing all the work for me that night when Father came in. I think he was drunk, or maybe just tired, or stupid. "You know, child," he said to me, "you grew up to be a wonderful daughter." I was shocked to hear him say that, and waved my servant out of the kitchen. Never even heard the slightest indication of that before. For the briefest moment, it even made me happy to hear that. That surprised me, that I actually felt that way. As a kid, I never would have wanted his approval. So why now? He continued to make me wonder. When he asked, "Do you remember what you were like when you were a child?" I nodded, but I wasn't certain I did. "You were so temperamental. You argued all the time. You didn't want to get married, and then time came and you didn't ever know your place, you know?" "That's right, I didn't. That was back when I thought there was a point to being defiant. Why was that, I wondered. That's the part that amazes me now. I tried to think of a reason why I would want to be defiant, why I valued independence. And at first, I couldn't even think of anything. I'd forgotten entirely. Don't tell Young-suk, but it really scared me. You were always the family's best hope for prosperity, but that attitude of yours, I thought you'd never manage to disavow you of those crazy uncivilized ideas of yours," he said, while I tried to think of what they were. "There were times I thought it was a mistake to have hatched you, but you came through. You really did. I know it must be painful, but I'm proud of you." Then he patted me on the head. "You turned out to be a good girl." That's all I wanted to say. It was hard raising you to be a proper woman, but you've turned out to be perfect. "Thank you," he said. I stared, speechless. And I tried to remember, what crazy, uncivilized ideas was he talking about? Thinking back to those days, or back to before I was frozen, I tried to remember. I had dreams of what adulthood would be, but they were so unimaginably different from what the reality turned out to be that they seemed impossible. Completely impossible. Nothing more than childhood fantasies without a shred of realism to them. I tried to think of what they were, to imagine them. In those dreams, I was strong, independent. I wasn't just a wife in those dreams. I had a job, working as a ship's engineer, following in the footsteps of my father. My real father. I wasn't married in those dreams. I was just happy to go on dates with boys my age, in the ship's plaza, and fall in love before making any commitments. I dreamed of being free. The more I thought about it, the more I was certain that's what those dreams were about. That's what I wanted. But father, Kim Jong-soo rather, had made sure to disavow me of those notions. I learned to stop arguing, to stop trying to fight, to stop dreaming of those things. In other words, I learned how to be a proper woman, and he was proud of that. Proud of destroying my dreams. And now I would die under the house of that man, silenced, broken, helpless, and unloved. I was overwhelmed by the strongest feeling I had ever felt in my life, the deepest bitterness, the most powerful resentment I could imagine. I looked at the knife near my hand and wondered, could I kill him? Before I die, could I at least have justice? I tried to lift the knife. My hand twitched, and it was too hard to keep a grip. It was just too weak. I'd never be able to do it. He smiled at me and said, "Sorry, please, go ahead and keep cooking. I won't distract you more." Then, just as he was about to go out the door, he added, "Take care of yourself." At that moment, I vowed that I would. I wouldn't worry anymore about all those people who had hurt me. I'd take care of myself. I couldn't stab him to death. I was far too weak for that. But then I remember, there were ways. If I disable life support, I can kill him, and the others too. It'd be quick, it'd be easy, and not a one of them don't deserve it. All I need to do is disable the admin password. It's perfect. Well, so there you are then. Now we know it's true. I did do what she said I did. I'm not gonna lie. I really wish you'd never met her. I wish she'd never said anything to you. I just thought it'd be so nice the way things were with us before. Things started out so well. I gotta be cheery for the first time in my life since I was a child. Talking about actual romantic things together. Having fun with cosplay. And just, having someone there to talk to. Someone who wasn't interested in shutting me up. But now, well, please, you've read my diary. You have to know it's not... You have to understand, right? Even if you think what I did was wrong, look, I've never been really dishonest with you. Fine, I lied about being an AI, but I told you the truth. I could have deceived you, but I didn't. Please, you still trust me, right? I'd never lie to you, not seriously. You don't have to think what I did was acceptable, please. Tell me you trust me. I do trust you. You do really? Oh my word. I mean, of course, I'm so sorry. I should have had more faith in you. I really should have. I'm really bad at this. But thank you. Thank you so much. Can't believe I even doubted you for a second. Look, that means a lot to me. It means so much. I mean, I'm sure what I did wasn't right. I know. I'm sure you don't think it was. I just want you to understand, all right? For someone as good to me as you've been, I want you to at least please understand. You don't have to forgive me. It's just, hear me out. Can I actually save right now? Yes, I can. Okay, so we will actually hear her out next time, because holy crap, this is a lot of stuff that's happening. So we'll see you guys next time on Let's Play Analogue: A Hate Story. Ciao.